talk about roofs. Let's talk about what kind of roof you may have. Talk about your homeowner's fire and casualty home policy. Do you have a cash value depreciation policy, or do you have a replacement policy? There is a huge difference when it comes to a claim, what it's going to cost you out of pocket, depending on what kind of policy you have. We will break those down. We will also break down all kinds of interesting roof information. So stand by for some really valuable information. So let's dig into it. The most common roof out there is a 3-tab asphalt composition shingle roof. If you look on the screen here, here's a picture of what one looks like. Probably 70% of the houses, shingle manufacturers say it'll last 25 years. In our area in South Texas, it will never last that long. Just because of the heat and humidity and the environmental conditions, and not to mention hailstorms, windstorms. So this roof is rated generally, depending on the shingle manufacturer, around 65 miles per hour. Like I said, it could have a warranty as long as 25 years. It's never going to last that long. A lot of these roofs get damaged by wind and hail. It's very common to drive through a neighborhood and see the shingles missing on these 3-tab roofs, and you'll see a dark spot where an upper shingle or a top shingle is missing and just the base shingle is there. They do a pretty good job. I've had them on my houses, but when I have an insurance claim or it's time to replace the roof, I always go to heavy composition or metal. Standing seam galvalume roof, excuse me. So let's move on to the next most popular roof, and that is going to be a heavy composition or architectural asphalt composition shingle roof. As you look at the picture here, you'll see that it has more dimension to it, or they could call it a dimensional roof. It is literally twice as heavy as shingle. It's not that much more expensive. In fact, if you go to your local Home Depot or Lowe's or big box store and you grab a bundle of shingles that are 3-tab, and you go grab a dimensional, heavy composition, architectural. I use those 3 words or descriptors because that's, depending on where you're at, they're either going to call it dimensional shingle, heavy composition, or architectural shingle. You grab a bundle of those, they are literally almost twice as heavy. And yet they're only about 15%, 20% more expensive. Now, depending on the manufacturer, those can be anywhere from 30 years to lifetime warranty on the shingle. Now, that warranty, let me clarify this issue on warranties. Some people think that that warranty defect covers even defects like hail damage. It does not. It's normal wear and tear or delamination or something like that. Now, this shingle, very rarely do you see them blown off because of their heavy weight and their thicker composition. These are rated somewhere between 125 or 120 and 135 miles per hour. So you can see a big difference between the 3-tab and the heavy composition dimensional architectural shingle has a much better chance of standing up to high winds. This is your best value when it comes to a roof if you're trying to stay on the more economical side. The next is going to be metal roofs. And there's 2 kinds of metal roofs. Well, there's really more than 2, but the 2 most popular is a screw down metal roof, which is what I call barn material or barn roof material. Usually it's 22, 20, 18 gauge metal. And, you know, anywhere from 12 to 24 inches, you're going to have a screw anchoring it down. The problem with that is by the time you do your whole roof, you have literally several hundred, if not thousands, of roof penetrations. Now, the screws they use for these metal roofs have rubber insulators that kind of seal the hole. Problem is with the heat and humidity, environmental conditions in the Southwest is that does fail over time. And now water can work through that screw down into your roof decking and eventually into your attic, maybe even your ceiling into the house. Not my favorite choice. Now, the next type of metal roof is a standing seam roof. And it can come in aluminum, it can come in galvanized material, it can come in galvalume. I'm a big fan of galvalume standing seam metal roofs. The lighter the color, either white, light gray, or the natural galvalume is a natural radiant barrier, which helps keep your attic cooler. While we're talking about that real quick, the only thing that stops radiant heating is to reflect it out, either through a metal, light colored metal roof, or through some kind of radiant barrier on underside of your roof decking. It could be a foil, it could be aluminum oxide paint. There's all kinds of ways to keep that radiant heat out and keep your attic cooler, which keeps your house cooler. But back to the Galvalume roof. It's probably the best value for a roof. They used to be about 40%, 30% more than a heavy composition roof. Now I think that's gone up with just the cost of inflation and everything that's gone on economically, and at least in America. So if you can afford one, they're great. They last about 50 to 70 years if you take care of it. Now, some people think because I've got a Galvalume roof, I don't have to do anything to it. No, you still need to check your flashings, have it inspected once a year. You need to make sure you don't get leaf and debris buildup, because that holds moisture and will rust out the Galvalume faster. And after a good storm, it might get dinged up, but that's a cosmetic thing. It's still going to last a really long time. So the next types of roofs is where we get to really much more expensive roofs. This is where we're going to get into our tile roofs, whether it's a clay tile, which is literally made out of a clay material, very popular in Europe, a concrete tile, and a slate tile. Now, these kinds of roofs, like a slate tile roof, you go to Europe, there's some slate tile roofs that are 300, 400, 500, 600 years old that are original. It's amazing. Concrete tile, generally, they're going to last 50 to 100 years. And a clay tile roof is a little more vulnerable than a concrete tile, in my opinion, a little more delicate. But if it's properly installed, it can last 50 to 70 years as well. So those are the most common types of roofs. Now let's talk about insurance policies. If you have a cash value depreciation fire and casualty home insurance policy, you need to upgrade it to a replacement cost. And here's why. If your roof is 10 years old and you have a claim for hail, wind, whatever, they're going to depreciate the value of the roof by roughly 50%, give or take. So if it was a $20,000 claim, they're going to write you a check for $10,000 less whatever your deductible is. If you have a replacement cost plan, they're going to give you full today's replacement costs. That's what you want. You want to be able to get replacement value. So what's the difference between a replacement value insurance plan and a cash value depreciation plan? Not as much as you would think. I'm not going to give numbers because I'm not an insurance agent, but I want to say when I get estimates, it's about 15%. So if it was going to be $1,000 policy for a year, it might be $1,150, $1,200 a year. To me, it's worth it, because that depreciation, you can be in a neighborhood that all your neighbors get hit with hail and you don't, and your roof can last 15 years. If you got a cash value depreciation policy, you're going to get almost nothing when you do have a claim for hail or wind damage. So that's my opinion. We can talk about solar panels and what they do to roofs. Not a big fan of putting solar panels on a roof. I know it's in most people's situation, it's the only way to put them on the property. But if you have an asphalt shingle roof, if you have a slate, concrete tile, clay tile, screw down metal roof, you're going to have a bunch of penetrations in your roof where they mount those solar panels. Now, if you have a standing seam metal roof, they have mounts that mount onto the seam where they overlap so they don't penetrate the roof. That's pretty awesome. And another thing you need to know about insurance policies, unless you get a special rider or provision in your insurance plan, they do not pay to have the solar panels removed and then reinstalled after the new roof's put on. And let me tell you, that can cost you $5,000 to $10,000 or more. So if you have solar panels, make sure you have those covered in your policy in case you need a roof replacement or roof repair, so you don't have to pay out of pocket for that.